Happy Christmas Eve or Merry Holidays, whatever you want to say this time of year. I am here with a special guest to do this spoiler review for The Matrix Resurrections, which is out in theaters now, out on HBO Max for you all to watch by yourself or with your family or some friends or whatever. We're going to break this thing down, and I'm so excited to welcome my guest. Is an old friend of mine, a guy whose opinion I respect on movies. We don't always agree. It's always funny when we agree. It's always a great time to discuss movies and break it down. This is a guy whose opinion I respect deeply and who can go bone deep on a film as well and give you what he likes and doesn't like and back it up well. So I'm excited to welcome him to the show. He is a film critic, film reviewer, writer, editor, all kinds of jobs you can think of. He has worked for numerous outlets, and he has a footprint over the last few years in this entertainment industry. And we, of course, work together over at Collider. We've had many battles across the desk at the Schmodown. So I couldn't be more excited to welcome the great Jeff Sneider. How are you, Jeff?
Whoa!
How's it going?
Bullet time.
Jeff, this is interesting. I mean, The Matrix Resurrections, man. Let's start off first by talking about what is your experience with the Matrix? Did you like the first movie that came out in 99? And then, of course, the subsequent two films weren't quite as well received. What was your feeling when you heard that it was coming back after all this time, almost 20 years now, coming back to do a new installment into this franchise?
I was totally open to it because it's almost like Dexter. Dexter had such a bad ending, and now they've brought it back, and I really like what they're doing. And I think that
a lot of people do.
Lana Wachowski, at least, recognized that those sequels were a little kind of mumbo jumbo. I mean, I thought that they were okay. They certainly have some amazing action sequences in those sequels, but I think that there was a chance to wrap up this story a little bit better and tell it. I don't know, and just leave it in a different spot. So I didn't mind that they, resurrected this franchise, so to speak. But I do not like the direction that she took it. But the original Matrix, I think, is a groundbreaking masterpiece. I was like 15 years old when that movie came out, and I really had no idea what to expect. It came out at the end of March. It had very little buzz around it, and my friends and I were blown away. I love that soundtrack. Mm-hmm. I think The Matrix meant a lot to me growing up, and I think the trailer for this new movie was probably the best trailer of the year. So I was pretty excited for it, which is why I will be so disappointed on this video review.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it all for sure. Yeah, same thing. I mean, we went with a bunch of my friends in 1999. I remember I was in Tallahassee at Florida State. Remember, this is one of those seminal films you watched at a certain time. Remember the 90s full of the independent film movement, but here comes a film right on the tail end of that decade that becomes a seminal sci-fi film. We've got a few of these, Blade Runner, 2001, A Space Odyssey. They're just these films that come along and they seem timeless in the world of sci-fi, and they actually revolutionize the genre and make you think differently about sci-fi. And this film influenced so many films going forward over the next 2 decades in terms of approaching philosophy, throwing concepts of humanity and what it means to be human versus not human in the world of sci-fi. It kind of advanced this philosophy into a mainstream approach with The Matrix. And of course, those next 2 films, filmed back to back and I think released within a few months of each other, really just kind of dissipated the joy people felt after the original Matrix. So after all this time, to be coming back with another Matrix without one half of the Wachowski sisters, it seemed like an odd decision. But as you said, the trailer looked awesome. Keanu Reeves coming back, the action sequences, Carrie-Anne Moss coming back. What is this relationship? We weren't getting Larry Fishburne or Lawrence Fishburne. We weren't getting Hugo Weaving back as Agent Smith or as Morpheus. So what was this new iteration going to actually say about the world? And if I can go first right off the bat, I'll say this. After having seen this movie, I watched it twice now. My overall feeling is there were a lot of ideas that Lana Wachowski wanted to present in this review, but Jeff, they felt outdated. The stuff she is complaining about, hey, you're on your phones too much, or, the studio wants another sequel, and this idea of love, we'd already seen that Trinity and Neo are meant to be together in the previous 3 films. So there was nothing new here that was presented other than maybe Trinity taking more of the alpha role as the film went along. But concepts wise, there was nothing really new that was presented here that we hadn't seen in numerous films before. And I feel like maybe Lana Wachowski got caught by her own creation in that these concepts have already been talked about because they were influenced by the 1999 Matrix. So all these films over the last 20 years that presented the stuff in sci-fi, in essence, her film feels 10 years too late. What did you think overall about the Matrix
I do
Resurrection?
think that you're right that the timing, that this movie is coming too late. They waited a little bit too long. I don't
Yeah,
understand why people are like, "Oh, this movie is like so woke." It's like, did you see the first Matrix movie or anything? Like, woke has just become a code for like diverse or something like
right.
that. Like,
Sure.
this has always sort of been a franchise about exploring identity
Yes.
and like it almost made sense when the sisters came out as transgender after this
Right.
trilogy. Like it was like they basically spelled it out for you here.
Yeah.
So I do think it's interesting that she used this movie to further explore those issues. Now that
Yes.
she has transitioned and stuff like that, I don't know why people are getting bent out of shape about those elements of the story. That's not what bothered me about this. I thought it was just lazy. I thought that the
Yeah.
meta stuff just did not work. It honestly felt like if this felt like a movie that Warner Brothers was begging Lana Wachowski to make, and she's like, "All right, fine, I'll do it, but if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna comment on the nature
Yeah.
of sequels and all this kind of stuff," and it just doesn't feel like her heart is in it. I think that's why Lily was probably not involved because her
Yeah.
heart is not in it. I think that shows up in the movie. I
Yeah.
think Keanu is like sleepwalking through this thing. Didn't care for Yahya-Abdul-Mateen's Morpheus. To me,
Yes.
Morpheus and Hugo Weaving were the 2 best performances in the original Matrix, and they're not in
Right.
this movie.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of complaints. So I'll let you go from there, though.
Well, it's an odd decision. I agree with you. I mean, because in essence, what they're doing is you're commenting on the nature of sequels, and you're saying, "Oh, it's the studio's making me do this," but then you go ahead and agree with the younger casting of these characters in the fact that you've got Yahya-Abdul-Mateen coming in as the younger Morpheus. You've got Jonathan Groff coming in as the younger Agent Smith, and you're doing that so that you can launch more sequels, and these guys are now relevant in the prime of their careers at this time, or getting known in the mainstream. So without going Lawrence Fishburne and Agent Smith, to me it just seemed odd to do that, because in essence you're saying, well, the studio's making me do this, but then I'm totally going to agree with going the studio route and young casting this, which just makes no sense to me. It kind of undercuts the supposedly clever meta a part of this whole movie that I just didn't understand why Lana Wachowski would do this. And I think you're right to bring the fact that Lily's not involved in this. I think there's a thing about 2 people working together who've worked together for a long time. There are parameters or barriers or certain tricks that the other one knows the other one's going to do, and when you've got the other one to call out the other one to stop doing that, it kind of helps you hone the film a bit more. And I felt that this film at times was a bit simplistic or a bit easy, and maybe lazy is the right word. I don't know if I want to go that far, but certainly it felt to me like, why did you even make this movie by the end of the movie if you're not really saying anything profound at all? Because the 1999 original had something really profound to say about the world. And I feel like now in 2021, Jeff, there are multiple things that you can say that could be profound about the world, and I feel like they didn't, or she didn't, and the other 2 writers here, David Mitchell and Alexander Hemmon, don't either within the script of the film.
I mean, David Mitchell, he's the Cloud Atlas guy, right? Aren't these
Yeah,
both? It's like
yeah,
some people like Cloud Atlas, some people have a soft spot for that movie. I couldn't stand that movie either. Like this is
right.
just like this. I don't know, this philosophical mumbo jumbo. That's not why I go to the movies. That's nice to have afterwards to
Right.
analyze the themes and whatever. But like,
Right.
just tell me a good story. And this didn't have one. And the stakes feel so much lower here. Before it's about Neo trying to save the world, and now
Right.
he's trying to save his girlfriend.
Right.
And it's like this isn't the great. Like I do appreciate the Neo Trinity romance in that first film.
Mhm.
I suppose over the whole trilogy, but like that is not why the Matrix continues to resonate with people 20 years later. This is not like
Right.
some great romantic, saga or something. It was
Mhm.
like So the fact that that sort of became the focus of this was disappointing. But like, let's talk about the action, because that's
Please
why you're watching these movies, right?
go ahead.
It didn't do anything new. Nothing was groundbreaking. This is Keanu's whole performance. Stopping bullets, redirecting missiles. It's just like this.
Yeah.
I could not believe that this brought nothing new to the table from like a visual action standpoint. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. I mean, there's a close action sequence in the film, and by the way, we're not going to just be tearing the film. At least I'm not going to be tearing. We're going to get into some positives about the film for sure. So just hold on as we kind of go through this and navigate this review. But certainly the action sequences, they were beautiful to watch. I will absolutely say that. I think the cinematography, the direction, the camera angles, the usage of all of that, I think was really well done. But there's action sequences here with like that close quarter action sequence. You can't tell who's hitting who's on what side or what's happening and all of that. And the stuff is all the same. The turning around, the dodging the bullets, the transitioning into other things. There was nothing really new that was brought into this installment of the franchise in terms of the action that made you be like, oh wow, they're really taking advantage of the technology that is available nowadays. So they're taking bullet time and they're going bullet time 2.0. Like, what was the newest thing? And there really isn't anything. Are they gorgeous to look at? Yes. Are they thrilling action sequences? Sure. But in the end, I agree with you. It doesn't really add anything new to the franchise that you hadn't seen before. The movements are similar from top to bottom.
I think that the movie comments on that too, where it's like, we created this innovative thing, bullet time, and now they're just like they snap their fingers, like, well, do it again and invent something else. And I get that you can't always do that every time around, but I just thought this was so lazy to just recycle the strengths of the old movies. Those old movies are 20 years old and they looked better. The action looked better. The cinematography, the colors popped, like the highway scene from the sequel, like this. Come on, there's nothing in this movie that can even touch that.
Yeah, I have to say, there's not one action sequence coming out of this movie that I can think of that matches that highway scene in Reloaded. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. That's the thing that kind of, the romance, the heart, Neo and Trinity, that is certainly the foundation of the film, but it is absolutely the action sequence and the philosophical concepts that are things that people take away from it and have discussions about and create videos about, and really kind of, that's where you hang your hat on that in terms of the overall effect of the franchise when you're watching these movies. I will say this. Let's move to the acting here, Jeff. I liked the acting. I thought Carrie-Anne Moss, it reminded you that this is an actually damn good actress who doesn't work enough, doesn't get enough love from casting directors and directors themselves, lost in ensemble pieces, lost as being the mom of Shia LaBeouf in Disturbia. Like, these are the things that you see Carrie-Anne Moss do. And of course, she's got to work. She's got to put, food on the table, pay her bills or whatever. But like, there is better work that she could be a part of. And I don't know why she's not breaking through and getting this kind of work, and why she hasn't had the same kind of footprint as Keanu Reeves since 1999's Matrix. I also like Jonathan Groff. I thought Groff was great. Loved his version of Agent Smith, the smirking, sly little shitbird that he was throughout that whole movie. I dug it. Yahya-Abdul is good in the first half as he's figuring out who he is, but once he does, he becomes an ensemble character and is almost pushed to the side, so you can't even appreciate what he's doing. And Jessica Henwick, though, she's fantastic. I think if you're a casting director and you're looking at a young actress who's kind of showing you what she could do, both in Iron Fist and something like this, you want to go get this actress and put her in your movies. What did you think about the acting overall? Did anybody stand out, or did anybody let you down or disappoint you?
Henwick is the only one I could probably say nice things about. I thought she was okay. I thought Yahya was just goofy as Morpheus. I did not care for that interpretation at all. I don't think Carrie-Anne Moss is a great actress. I think that's why you don't see Carrie-Anne Moss that often.
Really?
Like, she was perfect. She had a perfect look for Trinity, and she's great in that movie. But like, isn't she just like Trinity? Like, she's Trinity. You see her, and it's just like, oh, there's Trinity. You don't even think that's Carrie-Anne Moss. A lot of people probably don't even know her name. I think you haven't seen her as much as you would like to, because she's not generally regarded as a great actress. Keanu is just sleepwalking through this movie. Jonathan Groff and Neil Patrick Harris, they were okay. But like, it just felt so like tongue in cheek. I didn't like any of it. Even the supporting cast, like those characters in the original Matrix, like Tank and Dozer.
Oh yeah.
like those are cool
Yeah.
supporting characters. This movie didn't have a Joey Pants. I didn't care about any of the support staff in this. Jada Pinkett Smith, no.
Niobe.
So no, I did not care for the acting in this at all.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I agree with you in terms of the secondary characters. They did not pop at all the way that they did in the first film. What was it? What's his name? The Tommy Chong's son. What was I forget his name? Yeah, he was the one that wanted to kind of, but he's the one that kind of asked for more money, and that's why Harold Perrineau came in to do the last two installments of the Matrix. I mean, that tells you how much he popped off the screen as a secondary character in that first Matrix, that he felt he should get paid going into the second and third films, because people were talking. I mean, that meme with the I forget the actress with the short blonde hair when she's like, not like this, not like. I mean, that's a memorable moment. There were no memorable moments with the secondary characters in this movie. I 100% agree with you. I don't agree with you that the acting wasn't good, but certainly the secondary characters did not pop. Yeah.
I just couldn't believe how many times like stuff would happen to them in the Matrix, and then we have to go back to the shots of them in the chair, like like it's so stupid. Come on.
Well, they bring up the Niobe situation. This is the one person they brought back besides Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu Reeves to be a part of this all over again. Where we find out that it's been 60 years. Oh yeah, I guess we should talk a little bit about the story here. The way they've set this up is that he's a video game. Neo is now a video game designer, and he works for Smith, quote unquote. That's what Jonathan Groff is playing, and they created a game basically that's the Matrix. One of the lead people is Neo, one of the other lead people is Trinity, but now
binary, right?
Yeah, huh? What's that?
But the game is binary. Is that what?
Binary. It's called binary, which really on the nose.
Very subtle.
Yeah, right. And Trinity is Tiffany, and she has a kid. She has 2 kids and a husband and all this. So it's this idea that that Neil Patrick Harris, the analyst who's given him the blue pills, he has figured out, spurred on by the suits, which are the machines that took over the humans, that he can make the Matrix work if he just has Trinity and Neo close to each other, but not touch each other, because that's what always blows things up. So this is what they create, and I just, to me, as I'm watching, and then of course the we're mentioning Jada Pinkett, she is Niobe there. This has been happening for 60 years apparently, so that's why Niobe is old, and they're in the city of Io, and Telma Hopkins shows up here. If you're a fan of Give Me a Break from the 80s or any other sitcoms that she's been in, which is an interesting situation to have her in. But anyway, it's this whole process, and now they figure out they've got to wake up Trinity, because they woke up Neo, and if Trinity and Neo can meet and Trinity can accept the fact that she is actually Trinity, then they can blow this whole thing up and destroy Neil Patrick Harris. It's just such a weird idea that the only concept or the only goal here is to wake Trinity up so that they can blow up the Matrix yet again. So once again, dude, repeating the same patterns. There's nothing new here. And I think this is what frustrated me as I was watching the movie. I enjoyed the visual nature of the film. It's beautiful to watch. It's gloriously beautiful to watch, and the colors and all that. I liked it. I know maybe you didn't, but I liked it. But in the end, it had nothing to really say. What did you think about the structure of the story as you were going along, and they're revealing these things step by step? Morpheus being a program, Bugs essentially being imitating what happened with Carrie-Anne Moss and the other girl who had the white rabbit following into the. What did you think of all of that as it kind of hit the same beats as the first Matrix film?
I thought it was a mess. I mean, even like the training scene, like that training scene in the original with Morpheus and Neo, this is like a pale imitation of it in this movie. Like, come on, everything in this movie is a pale imitation. I liked how it started. I was on board with the first,
Me too.
20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And then, you just realize that the Emperor has no clothes, and that, they're just like treading water. I did not like, again, I really had problems with Morpheus in this. He looked like something out of the Lawnmower Man. Like, he's just like,
that's a great point.
It was like so ridiculous. Like, this is what we've relegated this guy to, a bunch of zeros and ones or something. Like, no, I really don't have much nice. I didn't put this on the disappointments list. I don't know if you've seen my blog on my blog, my ancient blog spot. This didn't make the disappointments list. This made the bad movies list. This made the list of like Space Jam 2. Okay, and I don't know Warner Brothers is obsessed with this, for their sequels. They have to all become meta, and it was, oh my god, I hated how self-referential it was. And I was
Yeah.
warned going in that it was going to be like that, but it didn't. It didn't work.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we saw. Well, I tweeted this when I put my initial thoughts out there. Like this film makes you appreciate, in my opinion, what J.J. Abrams did with The Force Awakens. Like he essentially traced A New Hope, but put his own flair on it, right? And it worked. It was able to bring in the old characters. You were connecting basic. Oh, that's the Luke, that's the Han, that's the Leia character here with Rey and Poe and with Finn. You got the idea of what they were essentially doing, but they still kind of explored a new story. And yes, there was still a Death Star in essence, and you had the First Order basically being the Empire again. So there were a lot of beats that were the same, but I thought it did it more interestingly, more faithfully to the original franchise film, and honor the spirit of it. This felt like, you were saying, there's a pale imitation of all these moments that we'd already seen, and then showing the movie in the theater. I was just, what are we doing here? At some point, I'm just like, you can be meta, but be like clever with the meta. Being so on the nose about the meta destroys the fact that you're doing meta at all, and you're losing, I think, a lot of the audience when they're watching it. I mean, this thing didn't make a lot of money coming out of the Thursday numbers, bro. So it's not looking good right now.
How about the machines? Like, I feel like in
Yeah,
that first film, the Sentinels are so
yeah,
well designed and conceived in the way that they move and the way that they're
yeah,
photographed. And here, no, I didn't like anything about the machines or the
yeah.
Sentinels. It was so, this movie was garbage.
Well,
I
and then
don't know what critic could give this movie a pass. I really don't.
there were a lot. There were a lot
There
from what
are
I
a lot.
saw.
There's a lot of awful critics out there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I wanted to read. No, I read a few of their reviews and kind of seeing their points of views and what they were getting out of it. But a lot of the reviews were like, well, yes, the meta doesn't 100%, but this is what I liked about it. So to me, it's like, this is a central part of the movie. You can't just discount a central part of the movie to go and fawn over certain aspects of the movie. That seems odd to me in that way. And in no way I'm saying, like, they shouldn't criticize the film their own way. I'm just saying that's a big thing to forget or to push aside about the movie. And there's more here that you can explore within it. So I just was disappointed by the story and the construction of it and the clumsiness of the meta. So by the end, I was just like, let's go. And when they came together, I will say this: when Trinity and you do come together and they go on there, that was fun. I mean, they just have such great natural chemistry. It was great to see them come together, and like her flying and him hanging on. So and then Bugs going into the mind meld with Trinity and being a part of all of that, and so she's like working on multiple levels, being a part of two worlds. I mean,
I like the idea of like when Trinity flew there.
yeah, yeah.
Why wasn't he flying? Was she the real one? Is that the purpose of
Yeah,
this
I
movie?
think they're saying that, like, without each other, they can't be the. That's what Neil Patrick Harris as the analyst. He said, like, without each other, they can't be the one. Like, both of them together is the one,
Are the
each one
right?
separately, which of course is what is a symbolism for the fact that you're transitioning. I think maybe. And hey, look, I'm walking into a minefield here, and I'll take some crap if you guys can school me on this. But it feels like this is what Lana's essentially saying, because she's a woman who's transitioned from a man into a woman, like having both elements in equal balance. Allows you to be even functioning in the
Whole
world the
season.
way she's, and I don't know if that's right or not, but I feel like that's what she was trying to say with this as well. And then having having Bugs and Trinity kind of come together, the two women mind melding from two different generations. Is that a commentary she's making, that there's something powerful in women supporting other women? And also making the analyst the villain, is this an indictment of psychiatry or psychiatrists? I don't know, but as I'm analyzing it, these are the things that were popping into my head as I rewatched it a second time. What did you think about that?
I just, maybe I'm one of those like basic moviegoers who needs everything spelled out for me and to be hit over the head, which this movie does plenty of. It hits you over the head with a lot of its themes, I
Certainly.
think. But like, yeah, I don't want to have to figure a movie out,
Okay.
like, I think that is an interesting idea, that Neo and Trinity complete each other, and only when
Yeah.
they are together can they really be the one. But I don't know what a meta video game and Warner Brothers mentions and all this other stuff
Yeah.
has to do with telling that story.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the end, I was just wildly disappointed. And again, this is a 2.5-hour movie. None of the other
Yeah.
Matrix movies are this long. Why is this movie so long? Why are all
Yeah.
movies so long these days? This movie drags. Cut
It's
20 minutes out of it, like every other movie this year.
yeah, that's an interesting conversation to have. You're right, Jeff. Because I mean, like Spider-Man: No Way Home was 2.5 hours. We just got another movie that
It
was two
didn't
and a half
drag.
hours. Oh,
Spider-Man did not.
Eternals. Right.
I didn't
Spider-Man
feel like
not dragged, but
Spider-Man
Eternals
dragged.
dragged. Huh?
Eternals drag. I mean,
Yeah.
everything drags.
Yeah.
Everything. Last Duel, Gucci, Don't Look Up. Why are these movies all 2.5 hours? Nightmare Alley. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Fair point. Fair point. We're allowing the directors to have more time to make their movies, but in the end, are they really delivering the power that they need to deliver over 2.5 hours that they could have delivered just as effectively in 2 hours or 2 hours and 10 minutes or something like that? That's certainly something valid to explore. In the end, though, do you think this thing is going to lead to more sequels? Do you think the end result of this movie, that's essentially about love and finding love and how love can complete you? Do you think in the end we've kind of finally wrapped this thing up into a bow and they're done, or do you think because they went younger with with Smith and with Morpheus that they might be exploring the fact of more sequels happening? Because I don't understand why WB would be clamoring for a sequel 20 years. That rarely works. It rarely works in any franchise when you take that much time off and then bring someone back to redo the film. It doesn't always, like I said, it rarely works out. So do you think they're opening the door to more sequels here?
I definitely think that Warner Brothers wants more Matrix. Do I think that there's going to be another sequel? No. I think that everyone is done with this. I think
Really?
Wachowski's done. I think Keanu's done. I think
Right.
Carrie-Anne Moss is done. However, I do think that the goal of this was probably to launch shows. Okay, that is how you
Oh, interesting.
money these days, is doing
Okay.
TV series and whatnot. So do I think that they could do a show with Jessica Henwick? They could probably figure that out. I think that she would
Right.
be a good, interesting lead for a show. Or maybe they just don't bring any cast back and they just explore various corners or ideas of the Matrix. But yeah, I do think that in the next few weeks or months, you could probably see HBO Max greenlight something, depending
Mhm.
on the numbers, or order something.
Right.
Maybe Wachowski would be involved as an EP, but I think
Right.
this whole world, this whole universe needs a new voice. I think we've sort of heard what she has to say at this
Yeah.
point. And if it is worth further exploration, they need to find a new steward. And hopefully it's not David Goyer or Simon Kinberg or one of the people that we
Right.
always sort of hear taking over these kinds of properties, but
Right.
somebody unique and interesting. Even though I didn't care for the movie at all, go get Janissa Bravo, who did Zola. I
Oh,
didn't care
yeah.
for Zola at all, but like that's someone I could see maybe telling some interesting stories in the Matrix
Right.
universe.
Right. Yeah, that's actually an excellent point. I mean, look what happened with the Rocky franchise, having Ryan Coogler come in, having Stephen Caple Jr. come in. These are new voices to kind of revitalize
Yes.
this story. You can absolutely, because I mean, that's transitioning Rocky out of that his own franchise. You can absolutely transition Neo and Trinity out of their own franchise and focus on new characters. There are other
Yes.
people who were woken up in the Matrix. What are their stories? What are their struggles? And you're right. I think this idea of the machines you brought up earlier, bringing back the menace of the machines, which was really non-existent in this movie, which is insane to think about, is something to put back into this franchise, and finding a good villain. Look, Jonathan Groff's not running out there making a lot of theatrical films. He's in Mindhunter. He's doing the stuff on Broadway. He could easily come back as Agent Smith on a TV show if you're going to go that route with HBO Max and you spend the money on shows like that. That's certainly possible. Yahya-Abdul was just in Watchmen, so why wouldn't he be part of another HBO Max show and be involved in that too? So I think there's avenues to explore here that you could play with.
If I was them, yeah, maybe I'd pursue something with Yahya. Given his rising movie
Yeah.
stardom or whatever. But no, I think that they do need to focus on different characters. I think it would be interesting to explore what happened to all those people who they thought were the one that failed.
Oh yeah.
That is a story right there. A
Oh,
limited series about
shit.
all these people, right, from who they mentioned in the first film,
Yes.
who, yeah, they weren't up to the task.
Right, the
So
kid with the spoon, all of that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
yeah, I don't know.
That could
That
be
stuff is interesting to me. Listen, I'd watch a show called like The Merovingian or whatever, and you
yeah.
cast some hot Euro actor as a young Merovingian. Merovingian, whatever. But no, I think Neo, Trinity, Morpheus, for the most part, we need to give these characters a break.
Yeah, I think we are done with it. I agree with you. And yes, having the Merovingian, that was maybe one of my favorite parts of the movie. Having him come in and act all crazy. Know that now they're seeing him that he's like this disheveled guy now and he's still angry. It almost felt like Excalibur when oh my god, who's the I can't remember that. Lancelot. Yeah, when Lancelot comes back at near the end of the movie and he's all bearded and he hates the king and hates the monarchy and all of that jazz, and then of course comes back, and it's just so funny to see him kind of looking like that. One of the best parts of the movie for sure overall. All right, Jeff, any final thoughts on this? Any final overall feelings about this, or did you just give them here in terms of transitioning to a TV show?
Yeah, again, I was really disappointed by this movie. I just thought it was so creatively lazy and resting on its laurels and the same ideas that it introduced 20 years ago. And I really can't say anything nice about it.
Fair enough. I can't go into
everybody.
I can't go into the Jeff Sneider bad movies list. I think for me, this is a disappointing experience because I liked all the actors coming into this. I think the opening 30 to 45 minutes is really, really interesting of how they're kind of putting a new version on the Matrix out there. But then it starts to hit the same beats in a very obvious and clumsy and way too on the nose manner. And they start to lose me in terms of caring about these characters. I'm loving Neo and Trinity, but then you take away Agent Smith and you put someone new in there. You just removing Hugo Weaving, removing Lawrence Fishburne is such a huge part of this franchise that made it work, that it was just tough to see this, tough to grab onto the new actors playing these characters and kind of be okay with the transition. It just doesn't work for me in the end. I think Lana Wachowski's direction is still damn good. I love the cinematography here from Daniela Mazzucchelli, and John Toll. And I thought the music from Johnny Klimek and Tom Twyker worked, and the acting worked for the most part. But that story really let it down. There wasn't that menace you're expecting. And Neil Patrick Harris is a wet noodle of a villain. Please, he scares no one. No, not even a 5-year-old child. He is not scary. Stop making him villains in movies. Yeah, a villain movie. It does not work. There are plenty of other people that could have played that villain role that would have been more menacing and more interesting and more charming to watch as the villain. And so if you're going to replace Hugo Weaving as the main villain, you got to replace it with someone who's on that level as an actor to be able to deliver that kind of new menace in the new in a new approach to this franchise for sure. So in the end, just kind of let me down. I give it 3 cowboy hats. What do you have on your list? I know you rate it differently than I do. What do you rate?
One cowboy hat out of 4 cowboy hats.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks to Jeff Sneider for joining me for this one. You all let me know what you thought about the film and what you thought about our review in the comments section below. Remember, hit a like on this video as well and share it on your social media. Jeff Sneider, where can people find you with all the stuff you're doing now? I hear there's a reawakening for you happening. What do you got going on?
Yes, some announcements, some exciting professional announcements should be made very soon, hopefully at the top of the year. Otherwise, you can find me at the InSneider on Twitter or InSneider Plus. I got a column at LA Magazine on Fridays. I've been working for Below the Line, btlnews.com. And yeah, one other exciting announcement to come soon. Happy holidays, happy New Year to everybody. Stay healthy, stay safe out there, wear a mask. This thing ain't over yet. And
absolutely.
Season's greetings.
There you go. I echo everything Jeff said. Please make sure you follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And hey, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and hit that bell button so you see when we're dropping all the new content we do on here. I'm trying to cross into that 20,000 subscribers mark. I'm less than 100 subscribers away. I'm trying to do it before the end of 2021. So please hit that subscribe button. Give me a gift, a Christmas gift, and help me cross that line before the end of the year. All right. Y'all take care of yourselves. Be well, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new spoiler review here on the Outlaw Nation. Merry Christmas.